As elections draw closer, we shine the spotlight now on political intolerance. The United Democratic Alliance released a statement in which it says that its members were subjected to attacks in Tjovitjo Informal Settlement in the south of Johannesburg during a door-to-door campaign, while in KwaZulu-Natal, the Democratic Alliance suspects political motivation after one of the party's branded vehicles was hijacked and set alight. Over the weekend, we saw supporters of the EFF and the ANC clash during Julius Malema's visit to a voting station in Dambuza. Here to talk to us about this, I'm joined by UDM Secretary General Bongani Msomi and DA KwaZulu-Natal leader Francois Rogers. Gentlemen, good evening. Good to have you with us tonight on In Focus. Babu Msomi, let me begin with you. Has intolerance taken over our politics, and is this based on just pure hatred or ideological disagreements?
Good evening to you and to the viewers. No, I must say what we are observing right now is pure political tolerance. But at this time, after 27 years of democracy, we did not expect that we would still be experiencing such political intolerance. Unfortunately, the members that attacked are allegedly belonging to a party which is one of the signatories of the Electoral Code of Conduct. So it is very disturbing because in 72 hours, it has happened twice. It happened on Sunday on the 19th, where our members were attacked while they were hailing, trying to encourage members of the community to go and register to the voting station during the voter registration weekend. And one of our local leaders, which is very known in the local community, was attacked by people who are known to be aligned to a certain political party. And today, on the 22nd, the president of the party, General Bantu Olomisa, visited the area, and he had to address the members of community. And immediately after he left, our members embarked on a walkabout as well as door-to-door campaign, canvassing for the organization. But they couldn't do that because along the way, they were stopped, they were asked not to enter certain houses, and then hell broke loose. Our members were attacked, and one of the victims who was mishandled and assaulted is none other than the provincial chairperson of this province in Gauteng.
What is causing these negative emotions? Are these based on political disagreements, or are they personal issues that are emerging in communities that are driving these negative emotions?
The message that was made clear was that there are parties that are not allowed to campaign in the area. They mentioned them, and they also mentioned UDM as not welcomed in the area. So you can see that it was just a pure political tolerance of a certain political party. We know the name of the political party, but what we have done today, we have written an official complaint to the IEC that it must do something like investigation so that at the end of the day, the justice can be done. And those who are found to be flouting the code of the electoral code should be taken into account, and certain action should be taken against the party that I'm referring to.
Francois, let's bring you in here. Why do you believe the torching of the DA van was, can be actually brought down to a political interference as opposed to, I mean, it's all criminality, but as just opportunistic crime?
Good evening.
Because these people were very vocal that they belong.
Let's just bring in Francois here from KwaZulu-Natal. Go ahead, Francois.
Thanks very much. Let me make it very clear that none of the statements we put out have we specifically said that this is politically motivated. What does concern us was my engagement with SAPS on the ground in Richmond, when I asked their opinion as to whether they believed this was criminal or whether it was politically motivated. And their response was quite simply, they have hijackings in the area, but normally the hijackers will remove whatever they want from the car and then disappear. In this case, the car was towed some way away into a deep rural forestry area where the car was completely looted and then set alight. This is an incident apparently that doesn't happen. So all along, we've just said it seems quite sinister. We've never indicated that it's politically motivated. However, I must add that on Friday, my apologies, last week, I attended a electricity protest march in eThekwini, where the DA was protesting against challenges, and a scuffle broke out between an ANC councillor and one of our DA staff members, one of our women, who was taking photographs, and this councillor was not happy with it, and she was assaulted. So we did take the necessary action there and open charges.
Yeah. Have we institutionalized political intolerance? I mean, you mentioned now law enforcement, but in how law enforcement, for example, deal with particular matters that are reported from particular parties as opposed to other parties, have we institutionalized it, Francois, you think, with how we regulate, for example, and govern elections, even maybe in how we broadcast certain parties around election time?
Well, you know, if one goes back into the history of KwaZulu-Natal, it doesn't have a great history of political tolerance. But political violence is synonymous with a few political parties. And unfortunately, one of those is the African National Congress. And we can see what's playing itself out in the streets at the moment, and the murder that's taken place with lists coming out. And quite frankly, to me, in my opinion, this is a political matter and should be dealt with internally. If you're going to have members who are taking the law into their own hands and who are stopping other political organizations from campaigning in a democratic manner, then it's a party matter and it needs to be dealt with on a party basis. But obviously SAPS need to play a role, and in the Richmond case, we would obviously hope that those who perpetrated this incident are brought to book, and we can establish exactly what the cause behind it was. Otherwise, this has the potential to escalate as we move closer to the 1st of November.
Yeah. Mentioning KwaZulu-Natal and the scars of political intolerance of the early 90s, maybe even the early 80s in that part of South Africa, what are the challenges in eradicating those vestiges of intolerance and those scars in society?
If you're posing that question to me,
yes.
Again, I think it's discipline. I think as political parties, we must realize and we must understand we might have different philosophies and different principles, but at the end of the day, our objective is quite simply to build a better South Africa, and one that is free of intimidation and of fear. And therefore, I believe political parties need to play a more active role in trying to bring this scourge under control.
Right, let's take a break. Babu Msomi, when we come back, I'm coming to you and I want to ask you the question, why do liberation forces or seemingly liberation forces want to act out these negative ways when they know the type of history that we come from of political intolerance under apartheid? And of course, we'll take this conversation further with my guest tonight, UDM Secretary General in the province, Bongani Msomi, as well as the DA KwaZulu-Natal leader, Francois Rogers. intolerance, with a number of cases being reported, or at least on social media, of attacks and a confrontation between political parties on the build-up to the November 1st local government elections. UDM Secretary General in Gauteng, Bongani Msomi, joining us now, as well as DA KwaZulu-Natal leader Francois Rogers. But Msomi, let's talk about the questions, particularly of liberation forces, or those who are thought of as our liberators, now acting out in such negative ways that are reminiscent of the political intolerance that was meted out during the times of apartheid. Why are they in many ways following in those same negative ways?
No, I must say that it is very disturbing. As I've said, that one did not expect that such a thing can happen after 27 years of our democracy, because it doesn't augur well for our democracy. But you can see that some parties, they are very territorial. They think that in certain areas they belong to them. And one thing for sure, if we can carry on like this as a country, we are going back to what happened in the early 90s, where there was a lot of unrest and killing of people because of political affiliations, and something that the country cannot ill afford at this point in time. But the problem is, more than anything, is that some political parties, they cannot inculcate culture of discipline in their members. They are there because they can make a lot of noise, they can do whatever, they can say whatever in the public and whatnot. That's how they can survive themselves, because they don't have pragmatic policies. They don't have anything that can say that they can take to the communities and tell the communities, this is what we are going to do. If it happens, that will give us a chance. Unlike the UDM, UDM is known as a very disciplined party, and this we have been welcomed in a number of areas, and we have never been a provocative organization since our inception in 1997. But unfortunately, after the advent of democracy, there's a lot of political parties that were formed, and you can see that the problem is they don't have any clear agenda except just to make noise and to fan this, this atmosphere which is not conducive for the cohabitance with other political parties. So we are saying, if we are an organization or you belong to an organization, one thing that is clear, we cannot be in agreement with our policies. We cannot be in agreement with our ideologies, because we are coming from different backgrounds. We believe in different ideologies. What is important is that we are in this country as South Africans, irrespective where what our backgrounds are, how our backgrounds are, where we come from, where we belong as an organization, because at the end of the day, we need each other, because we have to live as brothers and sisters, because this country belongs to us and belongs to all those who live in it.
Yeah, indeed. So you're saying yourself, what steps have you taken? Have you opened a case with the police on this particular matter? And are you going to be following up on those investigations? Because I suppose as far as you're concerned, you already know who the perpetrators are.
I must say, today we opened a second criminal case of assault. One was opened on Sunday by one of the local leaders who was also a victim who was assaulted. And today, the provincial chairperson of our organization in this province was mishandled and assaulted. and he was rescued by the members of SAPS who happened to be in the area. So he opened a case, but unfortunately, we don't have a case number now. But for the one that was opened on Sunday, we do have a case number. But what we have done as an organization, we have also lodged an official complaint to the IEC late today, so that the IEC can do the investigation. And if it happens that the party that we are referring to is found to be to have flouted the electoral code, certain actions need to be taken. Yeah. Because, as I've said, this party is one of the signatories of the electoral code of conduct.
Yeah, indeed. Francois, have we narrowly defined what the problem is here that leads to political interference? It's just mere provocation and maybe confrontation, because there is a widely held view, for example, that personalities play a particular role in the promotion of political tolerance or intolerance.
Yeah, I think my colleague here, Bongani, hit the nail on the head. And he's speaking the same sort of language that I am. And if you look at the political parties where we preach tolerance and we respect one another, no matter what our political backgrounds are, we seem to be able to get on with the job. But there seems to be a small grouping of political parties that the more political pressure is placed on them and the more they feel threatened, the more they then take that and use violence as a means to try and stem the tide against them. And again, I think the simple solution here, as Bongani said, is, if you have structures in your political organization where this type of behavior is unacceptable, and if it occurs, then it's dealt with and dealt with adequately, then it sends a message. But one hardly gets an idea. And again, I refer to the incident where, an ANC male councillor attacked a female DA councillor. Nothing, there's been not a word from ANC structures in the province. Now, that sends out a clear message. If we're going to wait for SAPS to deal with it, then that type of behavior is acceptable in the ANC. And I think Bongani and I both speak the same language here. That's where it starts. Stop it there, set an example, and then we're all on the same page.
Lots of work, though, still needing to be done, I suppose, as far as reconciliation, reconstruction, and growth is concerned. And the education on democratic principles that should, I suppose, dictate as to how we behave, even though as people, as we grow, we'll obviously support different groupings and different ideologies. Who takes the responsibility of doing that work? Are you saying it's political parties?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that's where it starts. Once you take public representatives on board, or once you launch branches with members, it's your political responsibility to ensure that you establish a set of laws, a set of ground rules, that people, no matter where they are in your structure, that they abide by those. And that if they break or transgress those regulations, then there must be consequence. So I think you're right. I think it starts with the political party. And if it doesn't start there, no matter what other progressive interventions you have, you'll never stop it.
As far as you're concerned, Babu Msomi, considering the type of intimidation, in fact, the attack that you have suffered, are you comfortable now going out to campaign? And how will that impact on your campaign? And do you think you will have a free and fair election come November 1st?
I think what that must be made clear to each and everyone, or to each and every political party, is that there are no go zones for whoever, for whatever organization, each party is allowed to canvass or to campaign in all areas in this country. So we are asking now the state security agencies that they must do their work, because some of these people are well known in the areas, like the one who were involved in attacking our members, are known, and they are known where they stay. But if there are no actions that are going to be taken against these perpetrators, because this was pure thuggery, so this will perpetuate if it is not stopped now, or if there are no action that are taken against these people. So we are appealing now to the state security agencies to do whatever in their powers to arrest the situation while it is still at this stage, because as we are moving nearer towards the election date, whatever that is being done now, it is going to be hotter and hotter, and the emotions will be very much high, and it will be very difficult to control those emotions when the elections are drawing closer and closer. So we are asking, as a law-abiding organization, that security agencies must do their work and arrest the situation so that it must not escalate, because there's no one who loves this country who can say, let's go back to what was happening in the middle 80s and early 90s, because we are going to lose a lot of lives unnecessarily, and there's no one who can win this war. So at the end of the day, it will be the members of the community that will suffer.
Right.
So we are appealing to all other organizations to take care and to talk to their members to abstain from these tendencies of preventing other organizations in campaigning in whatever way.
Let's leave it there. Heard you loud and clear. Appreciate it, Bongani Msomi of the UDM, as well as DA's Francois Rogers there. We're continuing.